revisiting the notes from that conversation we had the first time, and I had a word circled. It was fear, because we were talking about how too often people are motivated or driven by their fears, or they're
Mm-hmm.
not. They don't act because of fear,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and just with everything going on right now, it's even more topical than it was when we talked about it last time.
Very much so. Very much so. There's a this the way that humanity is allowing itself to be led unconsciously by the tail. And I'm not even going to put this on the feet of like some secret cabal or Bill Gates or whoever's the latest, because
Right.
we as humanity outnumber any collective of people. Like, we're the majority. I think it's time to stop laying blame, start stepping up, being the agent of our lives, agent of our families, agent of our communities, agent of our countries.
Mm.
Austrians now, a prison,
Oh my God.
house
What
arrest,
what the hell are they doing over there?
right?
Don't they realize their history?
Canada and Australia, house arrest. A member of my team is based in one of these countries, not telling anybody else how to live their life. I said, okay,
Right.
the way that you're doing things doesn't work for me. I'm going to go somewhere else. Cannot leave the country.
Can't leave Canada?
It's Australia. Can't leave
Austra-
Australia. I'm not
Oh.
allowed to leave without permission or taking actions that they've decided in agency within themselves that they're not ready to take right now. It's
Wow.
it's
I know. I mean, I think you make a good point though about the blame, because it's easy right now to blame it. You point at one party. In America, that's what we're all doing. We're pointing at the Democrats, or they're pointing at the Republicans, or whatever. But then you're like, well, so how do you explain what's going on in Austria and Australia, and Italy and France and Canada? I mean, people are losing their freaking minds, and I don't understand it, because you can't. I don't know. I mean, you've done so much of your own soul searching to kind of get where you are now. And I do want to get back to your story, because you've got an amazing one. What do you think? How did we get here? How did we get to this point?
dropping the ball time and time again with responsibility for our own lives. Let's look at government, and we're not going to get too political for us to get pulled in by the FBI for big, inciting, whatever, right?
Yeah, they're already
Or
monitoring me.
cancelled. Cancelled.
Oh, God
cancelled.
forbid. I know.
Right?
Right.
But the fact of the matter is that what is the role of a government? What's the role of the government? It's to
Should be
provide
to-
the resources for us to be able to live our lives free to express,
Right.
right? But bit by bit, the people who were abusing the system became the ones that created a new system that we call democracy, for them to have even more power over our lives than they had a couple of hundred years ago.
Yeah.
People say, oh, but look, the economics have changed. No, you're a debt slave now.
Right.
Right? They created these games like, oh, go and own your own home. This is what you need to do. Mortgage, married until death.
Good Lord.
Right?
No,
And
you're
then
right.
You work for a corporation. How many? I can't remember how scary the statistics are, but I think it's it's less than 10% of, or 15% of Americans can scratch together $400.
Yeah, for a $400 emergency, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's because guess what? But this includes people making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. But
Right.
then you have to have the first house and the second house, and then you need to have the latest Lexus, and then your wife needs to think. I'm guilty. I'm spending my wife's birthday is coming up. She wanted veneers. I forgot $10,000 for her to get teeth. And when I questioned it, society's got programmed. Well, you've got enough to pay for it. Yeah, but that's not the point. Like we're consuming all of this stuff, and I'm not crapping on consuming, but are we consuming because we actually desire something? I like nice things, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've got nice clothes. I have a couple of nice watches. I live in a nice house. But guess what? I'm not getting these things, extending myself to the point that the resources that I'm giving in life energy and lifeblood are just being used to sustain things.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're not living for them and having to hold
No.
them up, or yeah.
No.
No, you're right. I don't think there's anything wrong with, treating yourself and
Of course.
having nice things. That's what you work for, but not at the expense of not being able to prepare for a $400 hiccup. I mean, good lord.
Or having peace of mind. Or having
Yeah,
peace of mind.
yeah.
Look at burnout, stress, anxiety, work-related health issues. Also,
All
that we can
higher,
have
all
stuff.
higher.
I
Yeah,
saw a,
we're
I saw a really interesting video today on Instagram from a guy. I was on his podcast a little while ago, and he was quoting someone else. But he said, "Here it is. The greatest thing that the government did for big business was giving everyday people a stimulus check. Because what did they do? They went and put all of those trillions of dollars straight into the hands of big business.
yeah. It just bought stuff
Bought stuff.
because they didn't have to pay rent either.
No, they didn't have to pay rent either. But now the moratorium's coming up, and guess what? People getting kicked out of their houses. And then, oh my God, these capitalist pigs keeping people out of their houses. What about the mortgage that they've got to pay?
Yeah. What about the landlord?
What about the landlord?
Yeah, I know. Round and round we go.
Exactly.
But you know, I'd like to think that we're past the worst of it and we'll get better. But every time I think that, another foot drops. So we'll see. Now, it's you know, I was looking at the notes and everything, and just so everybody, once again to reset, I'm talking with Dan Mangena, Dream with Dan. Is, you know, that's your motto and I guess your business model. You talk a lot about abundance. You don't just talk about gifts. You talk about abundance, which is, you know, I don't want to lump you in with all the, you know, the positive thinking gurus and all that. But I mean, it's a positive message. But where do you get this this mindset that we have a birthright to abundance? Because I think you use that very term.
Well, let's put it into these terms, John. I mean, where in nature is there anything except abundance? Where is there lack in nature?
Where's their lack?
In nature.
Well, I guess it depends, but you talk about like the desert or something like that. Is that what you're talking about?
But even the desert still has an abundance of life that's optimally positioned to live in the desert.
Right. It provides for things that are
provides
supposed to be
for the
there.
things that's supposed to be there,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
The only time that lack shows up in nature is when humans get involved.
Yeah. You get a lot of, well, we're total parasites. You know, I mean,
Basically.
let's call it like it is. I mean,
Let's put it like
we're
it
going to
is.
gobble it up if we can find it.
Yeah, but I mean, nature, when left to its own devices, and even when you look at these places where, or even like a crack in the ground, like nature fills it up. It's always
It'll find
a
a way.
natural law is growth, expansion, and more life. We've come out of contact with that because we up here with our egos and our need for stuff, and there's not enough, and all of these stories. That's why we feel the need to subjugate others, or to kill or be killed in business, or to take out the competition in the office. Whereas when we reconnect to the truth that nature always has enough and allow that to be our guiding principle, we don't have to have all the ickiness at all.
Oh man, you're there.
Yeah, I'm still here.
God, I'm sorry. I don't know what the heck happened.
It's all right. We
Holy
had
criminy.
the signal just went. It's all right.
The whole house was going to be out.
No, we're good.
No, you were telling me about right when you cut off. You were about to say when in nature, nature provides. We screw it up as humans.
Yeah, so humans, we have lack. We feel that we need to subjugate others. We feel there's not enough. And when that gets into the mix, that's when a lot of the problems that we have show up. Fear
Yeah.
is an expression of lack. Not enough. Not this. Blah, 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 blah. So my whole thing about abundance is our birthright is because it's the natural way to be. It's an expression of natural law. But we, with our egos and our stories and our narratives, fall out of alignment and harmony with that.
Well, so you were in a really dark place at one time. You shared with me. I mean, you got to where you thought about ending your life at one point.
I was planning it. I was actively seeking that as the solution for my problems.
And if I remember, you said that you thought you'd screw it up, though. Is that
Yeah,
right?
so I actually had. So I remember I'm recording my TEDx in a week's time at the point of us recording this. My first of two, and this is part and parcel of the narrative that I share in that and that whole coming around. And I share in that talk that I had become the embodiment of the ultimate limiting belief. I was so limited that I thought I was going to mess up my suicide. And that's the only reason why I didn't actually make an attempt. That was it. If I had a surefire way of pulling it off, I would have gone for it.
So how long ago was this? Am I
This
asking?
is 2008. So
Okay.
what's that?
13?
13, 14 years ago?
13 years? Yeah.
Yeah.
So from there to here, that's quite a journey. So you got to that spot. Thankfully, you were you were too screwed up to do it right. So, or we wouldn't be having this conversation.
My friend Caplice says I overanalyze myself out of suicide.
You know what, man? However it happened, I'm glad it happened.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Amen to that.
So, what started you on this trajectory then?
I'm gonna say something that's gonna sound really weird.
Okay.
Okay. I wanted to work out what was wrong with my way that I created things, so that I could pull off my suicide without failing. And so I went off to work out what was wrong with how I created my life, so I could apply that fixed system to commit my suicide successfully.
Well, you're right. That was weird.
I would.
It was a self-help exercise so that you could adequately end your life.
Suicide.
Good night. Okay, so when did you get past that? At some point a switch had to flip, didn't it?
But do you know what the crazy thing is, John? I don't know when the switch flicked. All I know is I looked up one day, I built up another successful business, I'd rebuilt my life, I was in a healthy place with my body, I've been working out, I was in a healthy place with my mind, I was traveling, and I had great relationships with my family. And I was kind of like, oh, look at that. Look at that. And that's when I realized the inciting to be, that's what I realized has been the inciting incident to a thought that came to mind later, which is that it doesn't matter what you're choosing. What matters is what you're choosing against the backdrop of the inputs that you've got. I pummeled my mind with positive input. All I was doing was reading books, listening to tapes, reading books, listening to tapes. I was asking myself questions, I was journaling, I was writing, because I had to unpack this problem. I came to find out 4 years later that I was diagnosed late with Asperger's. So actually, it's because of the way that my brain is wired that I didn't impulsively attempt suicide. My brain works in steps and functions and ones and zeros,
Right.
and that's why I went through that process. But I spent so much time working to solve this problem that my brain just got completely positively polluted with positive content. There was no space for a negative outcome in my mind because I washed it out. I brainwashed myself with positivity. So when anybody comes and says, oh, my life's too bad, I just have to scratch my head because I know the power of changing the inputs and what that does with your mind, it does to your emotional state, and how that changes what we're pointing towards, even if we're consciously choosing to do something else.
And God, And I know it's right. I know what you're saying is right. And I here we are now with so many, you know, with we're in the social media age and everything, so many inputs that
Mm-hmm.
we're addicted to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's face it. During the pandemic, we even had more time for our
Mm-hmm.
addictions, and you know, and then the most volatile political,
Oh my.
you know, race ever. Then we have a pandemic. I mean, the
So much
beating
fun.
on people's mental health is
Yeah.
just tremendous.
And I mean, look, there. Again, I'm not here to tell people what to do. I'm not here to give my opinion on vaccination and stuff like that. I'm just talking about in real numbers. More teens are dying from suicide
Yeah.
because of the attempts to save them from the pandemic than have actually died from COVID 19.
Now say that
Real
again.
numbers. And yet, instead of addressing the mental health issue,
Oh,
which is
oh,
killing our kids at more alarming rate, we're
oh yeah.
creating more polarization by dictating what people have to do with their bodies. Again, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm just anti-non-critical thinking. Right?
That's a
Like,
great. All right, I'm gonna start using that line because I think we walk a line there because it is. I'm anti-mandate. I'm anti. You know, don't you don't
I'm pro-freedom.
one.
Now,
Yes.
here, freedom isn't the freedom to. I'm not saying I'm free so I can run around and beat people over the head because I'm free. Freedom doesn't subjugate others to comply with the context of my own freedom.
Hmm.
So I have freedom of speech, yes, but I'm not free to abuse others with my freedom of speech. I'm free to express myself,
Right.
right? Cue cancel culture, okay?
Right.
Now,
Yeah.
with when we're looking at what's happening with the media, what's happening with content, people are not being conscious and filtering what they're letting in. So the mind is getting filled with gunk. I don't watch the news
No.
in the US. I'm on the news a lot. Do a lot of TV slots, but I don't watch the news because look at
I
that
stopped
ticker at the
watching the
bottom.
news.
Look at the
Yeah.
ticker at the bottom. There's never any positive news there. They're just talking about what's going wrong. This is going wrong.
Right.
That person died. This is going wrong. So what's happening with the mind? Now I'm not saying not to be informed. I've got clean, controlled ways for me to be informed. I find out what's happening in the news in a controlled context where someone else just doesn't have the opportunity to effectively hypnotize me and brainwash me to think that there's only negative things going on in the world. There is a lot of positive. In the darkness, there is always light. We live in a universe that's completely balanced. But when we just focus our attention on the negative, from my own experience, I know that the outcomes that we're going to end up moving towards can only be negative.
And that's where we are. I think it's almost like people. A lot of their. I don't want to say they're broken, but
Mhm.
they've reached a saturation point with all the negative input that
Mm.
they're not able to. I don't know. It's like their capacity for rational thought, I think in a lot of cases has left, and that's why they're subjugating themselves to somebody tell me what to do now. Just somebody tell me what to do.
Can I give you my opinion on that, John?
Oh, I hope you will.
I think what's actually happened is there's sufficient quiet time for us to see that people never had that capacity in the first place. It didn't leave; it was never there. It's just that now we've got so many opportunities to see just how much of a lack there is of the capacity for critical thinking in the world right now. And when you look at the system wasn't built to create critical thinkers. It was built to create worker bees that follow instructions and do what they're told. Look at the education system, right?
Oh, yeah.
The education system, we're seated in rows with someone at the front ringing a bell telling us what we can eat. Pavlov's dog, anybody? Somebody gives me permission to go and eat. I have to ask for permission to go and use the restroom.
Right.
We are trained to be little worker bees. Maths. They don't teach us taxes. They don't teach us how to work out the power of compound interest. Things that are actually going to mean something in the real world. Pythagoras' theorem. Now, if I want to go and be a theoretical mathematician, of course, that makes sense. But why aren't we teaching life skills like critical thinking? Like the ability to look at information and to have some discernment. The ability to understand political parties, what they mean and what policy is. We're not taught these things. We're taught to be little worker bees that do what we're told. We do our 25, 35 years. We collect our pension. We go for holidays in Florida or Mexico, and then we die.
And we call it a day. Yeah.
We'll call it a day.
Oh man, now that sucks. That sucks. Yeah, well, you know what? During this pandemic has happened to the phenomena here. Since you talk about education, is how many people have changed the education plan for their children. I mean, we did it with our child. We took him out of one school, put him into another because it's just going to be, again, it's a positive atmosphere for him.
Mm-hmm.
I think homeschooling has quadrupled, if not
Mm-hmm.
more. People are, now that you say that we're trained to be worker bees, and I think what happened, it's a hot topic right now, of course, I'll probably catch some flack over this, but with parents at home seeing their kids, what they're being taught all of a sudden every day, it's like, holy cow, what's going on here? I think we've
Mm-hmm.
been asleep at the wheel for so
Mm-hmm.
long, just assuming, well, they're getting what they need to move
Mm-hmm.
on and get your grades up. Then once parents saw it, all hell's breaking loose. They're not real happy about it.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions. And again, I'm not involved enough or have enough enough information to be involved, but you look, there's a lot of hot topic subjects that are being taught. I know, probably going to catch some more flack for this. Even like
Yes.
a friend of mine was a little concerned that his child was starting to get confused about the gender and identity. All right.
Okay.
Again, we develop analytical function at 7 years old, ish. Up until
Okay.
that time, we're just a sponge. From about 7 to 14, we're developing the capacity to play with the analytical function. Oh,
How's my son?
hey, kiddo. And then after that, we're dealing with the hormonal response to that analysis we've been doing. And then we step into adulthood and we start to apply and take that out into the world.
Okay.
So in this process of all of this change, questions are being introduced that for the most part, and I'm not speaking for everybody, for the most part, there just isn't feasibly the level of capacity necessarily to start discernment. Kids 5 years old, not sure what gender they are. And again, I'm all for people having the choice of whatever they want to do. I don't care what people do consensually with their body parts or what the gender is of the people that they do their stuff with. If you want to change this, that's up to you. However, at a time when stability is required, we're introducing what I would call confusion. And this isn't about saying, knocking down any particular groups. I'm not here to get cancelled. I'm just saying that at a time when stability is required, confusion is being introduced. We're not saying, okay, here's a clean space if you've got something to discuss this thing. Let's talk about this. I didn't even know that was a thing. What am I?
Right.
It's a different situation.
No, it totally is, and it's. I think just to see what's going to be going on with this generation. That's what I think about a lot. Is these kids, what they went through during this. I mean, it's hard enough for adults. We're going through this ourselves, and we've, supposedly built up some sort of inner self, and kids are still, like you said, they're in this deluge of just gathering information, learning about life in general, and then to have everything, the rug pulled out from under them like this. And I mean, school became a political arena around here. Schools, it's just crazy. Kids are having to, live through it. It's just the weirdest existence ever. Now, I know you moved. Aren't you in Cabo or something
Yeah, I'm
like
in Cabo.
that?
I moved 2 weeks ago.
That's so awesome. That's so awesome. Yeah. So no, but for those of us still over here dealing with this, it's a rough time.
Mm-hmm.
How do you, I would imagine, the message that you're sharing right now, it's needed more.
Mm-hmm.
Positive thinking, for God's sake. But if we're not, because I know that you're like attracts like. It's. I'm not saying that you're preaching the law of attraction, but some of the concepts are very similar.
Mm-hmm.
When we're getting the wrong input, so we're
Mhm.
acting more negative. You have all these
Mhm.
people who are negative and hostile, and how are we going to start attracting like? How do you start turning that around as a human if you're just a hateful, confused person right now?
We need to pause first.
Hmm.
We need to pause. Stop. Get out of the car. Get a map out. Course correct. But that requires knowing where we are and knowing where we're going. We haven't got any awareness of those things. we've got society and societal new weird norms in society telling us what we should be pointing towards, or we're so busy arguing with the norms that they're trying to point us towards that, again, we're not conscious to the direction that we're going in ourselves. We don't have enough awareness of where we are because we're so busy complaining about where we are or complaining about the people who we hold responsible for putting us where we are. First step is just to pause. Pause and say, okay, let's shut out all the external noise and just go into the heart and say, what is it that I want for me and my family, me and my loved ones? Getting with the family. So what do we want? What do we want to create? Where do we want to move? Because how can we create an effective strategy to get somewhere that we haven't even identified from a place that we don't even know where we are?
That's a common theme, man. It's like, we're all working, and if people say, so what's your end game? What's your goal? And how many people would go, I don't know. I'm just trying to get to next week. Yeah.
Trying to get through the bills.
Living for the weekend, man.
Car payments.
So, but when you, back to when you first started kind of building up your mind with positive energy, again, positive inputs, you're obviously a very intelligent guy. You were absorbing all this information. Why were you reading all these positive books at the time? Because you were in that dark place still. Did you just make a conscious decision? I'm going to have to start putting some different inputs into my head if I'm ever going to turn this around.
So here's the thing. I read Think and Grow Rich when I was 18 years old, 17 years old, okay? I read a book called The Midas Method by Stuart Goldsmith when I was 18. I was reading Plato, Psycho-Cybernetics I first read when I was 19 years old. I was reading Eric Berne when I was 18. I was reading as a teenager this kind of stuff.
Okay.
The success that I created and lost was built on me applying what I had learned from reading that kind of book. So when everything's gone the second time and I'm sitting in this dark place, I was like, well, it worked up to a point, but then it stopped working. So I actually went back to find out what I'd missed or what I'd got wrong, and also to identify what of it was poppycock, what was crap. So who were the snake salesmen and who was real? Where did things cross over? The Secret came out about that time, and I was going through that book and looking at which of these people are actually real. Because I was suspicious of these guys right now because I'd been burnt by not applying this stuff properly. And so I was going through this process of BS testing, checking what I'd gotten wrong. So I went into that content and then was consuming new stuff that was coming out at the time. I read The Alchemist, Paul Coelho, which had just been recently at that time translated into English. The Power of Now had come out not too long before that. So that's what I was doing. I was going through stuff that I'd read before to find out what I'd got wrong and what was not real, and was taking in new stuff to really map how this system was going to work and how I was going to get this suicide pulled off and not fail.
That is a bizarre rationale for what you're doing, and the outcome is just, could not have been more different than what you'd planned. So you're going back and you're saying, okay, I did these things. Because you said this, I don't know if I mentioned it earlier. You built and created successful life 2 different times and lost it all 2 different times. So something in the instruction manual was either a page missing or something.
I'd left one of the bolts out as it was falling apart. So it was driving a little bit and then it was falling apart. So what was that thing?
So then you go back and you refer to these thinkers, some of the material they're providing, and you're going through and you're going, yep, bullshit.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, remember this one. Okay, and you're writing stuff down. Is that where this, Dream with Dan, is that where
where my methodology came from? Yeah. Beyond Intention, the 4-step model that's the subject of, you can't see it, this book here. This is my
Stepping Beyond Intention.
Yeah, this is the seminal book that talks about my work and the story of that time and how it unfolded to what I do now. It came from that time. So step 1, accept, came from me looking back at the inciting incident to be moving down on this path, which was understanding that I'm the author and creator of my life. I'm the common denominator. There's only one common thread in all these experiences. There's only one consciousness that's been present in every experience in your life, and that's you. You can have someone that's there a lot of the time, someone that's there most of the time. Your mum was there at the beginning. But guess what? At the end of the day, the only logical place to introduce a change that's going to have the most wide-reaching impact in your life is with you.
Is with you.
That's it. And as much as people want to deny agency and deny taking responsibility and throw blame, There is only one. And at the very least, you have to accept that you are the common denominator. And that's the foundation of my work. If you can at least have sufficient, reasonable, reasonable response to take that, then we can start to build on that.
But
We can go
that's the
somewhere from there.
foundation. That is
That's
the foundation.
That's the foundation.
So, and I know a lot of people who are in that seeking mode or who are in that, that's not something that's easy for them because they don't feel worthy or they don't feel capable of changing things or they're hoping for somebody else to change things for them.
Because that's what we've been trained to do. We've been trained to
Right.
suck at the tit of the government, suck at the tit of your school or your family or whoever. Instead of what can I contribute, is what can I take?
Man. Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about this. This is such great lessons. I've got two, young men. They're not little boys anymore. And I mean, these are great life concepts. But at the same time, to have your head on straight and realize that, okay, yeah, I've got nothing now, but I don't have to accept that. I can make it happen. I can do this.
And the thing is, and this isn't necessarily doing it all on your own either. Agency isn't trying to do it all on your own. It's recognizing that nobody else can want for you more than you want for yourself. Nobody else can lift the weights for you any more than you can. They can spot you. They can help you take the rack off. They can help you keep count. They can motivate you. But at the end of the day, your life is going to come down to you.
And once you get there, I imagine for somebody who doesn't have that kind of mindset to finally make that jump, that must feel just amazing. That must
get
feel
to
like
see it
you've
every
just been
day.
freed.
The joy
Yeah.
of my life is getting to see that every day. Watching people go
Wow.
from hopelessness to transformation. I've got another one of my ladies, got $1.7 million manifested over the last year she's been working with us. Right? People creating financial freedom. People in tears and hopeless and then suddenly able to start taking back control over their circumstances. I mean, in this pandemic, so many people were left jobless, homeless. Another one of the ladies said the other day that she's so grateful that she found this work because she wouldn't have been able to survive. She's not in relationship and was locked in a house. No relationship. Just her and the cat. But then
Oh.
the community supported her online. And then having that mindset of, okay, what can I do in this situation to improve it versus just going into a ball? Miracles I get to see. Miracles, John.
Man. Well, and you have people who are still secluding themselves. I mean, physically, if we're talking about physical isolation, not good, man. Not
No.
good. It is hard to support or to get the support if you're not out there actively, being available for that support too.
But look, for thousands of years, we've been communal creatures. We have villages, small communities and pockets. Families, extended families live together. My family is from Zimbabwe in Southern Africa, and to a great extent, we've been really blessed that even though my parents moved to the UK 1978, 1977, something like that. So even though they were physically disconnected, still there was a relational community of connection that meant that support network was still available. That communal spirit was still available. But we've lost that as a society now. We don't, even in our own homes, we don't have connection and community. And yet that's part of the foundation of who we are as humans. So we're going against the very nature of what makes us human and then wondering why we're being led this way and that way. Why suicide's at an all-time high? Why alcoholism and drug addiction's at an all-time high? Because people are trying to fill in that spot, that connection and meaning of relationships with loved ones gives us.
Man, that's why this thing has been it's going to be so damaging to mental health of people we won't know the extent of it for some time.
It'll be a while.
Yeah. I mean, the isolation, like you said, we are communal creatures. And, I can just tell you for, me and my wife, we were very quickly, outside. It's like it's not for us. Neither one of us could stay. But it was kind of a spooky existence when this thing first came about because you wouldn't see people out. It was really weird. It just doesn't feel right. I mean, that's just not how it's supposed to be. And we're easier to, it's easier for, if somebody did have malicious intent to try to get us to, fall in line, to follow a new, say a mandate or whatever. If we're isolated, we're depending on just the digital devices that we have for our input, we're screwed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's it. And I think, with the increased reliance on all those things, and everybody, we saw what the media did, and it's still doing to a certain extent, is they're using fear to, to poke our most primal, reactions. They're using fear to get us to act in ways, and it's despicable, man.
I mean, again, I'm not an anti-vaxxer, okay? I'm anti-non-critical thought. All right?
Got it.
But when you look at the fact that the Webster's Dictionary was updated this year to change the definition of vaccination, like, where are the alarm bells?
Wait a minute, what?
Yeah.
They changed the definition of Webster's?
Yeah, check. You can go and check. It's there. I'm not. You can go and check. Because
Yeah, my wife's she's gonna lose her mind. She is.
because
I'm gonna lose my mind. So they changed it. Let me guess, to make it more of a
to make it
to
include
minimize.
to
Minimize.
include different things within the context of things that are not. So, for example, I used to do a lot of my old business, which I reopened, my consulting company. I used to do a lot of work in South Africa, in West Africa. Okay.
Okay.
So there's some tricky diseases going on out there that you've got to be a bit clever with, right? So for malaria, I would take a tablet every morning. After I'd had some food in the morning, a bowl of porridge or whatever, I'd have an anti-malaria pill, just in case to get bit by a mosquito that's got malaria. I would take medication to make
Right.
sure that I don't get a disease, all right?
Right.
But then there were certain jabs, like I'd have a yellow fever jab every 5 years or whatever. I'd have to have a yellow fever jab and another jab. Now, when I have a vaccine, it produces antibodies in my body so that if that disease comes in, my body can fight it off.
Right.
I'm not a medical professional. I'm not a doctor. However, look at the definition that existed a year and a half ago of what a vaccine is. That's what it is. When I was a kid, I think it's the shoulder, I had
Yeah.
a tuberculosis.
Yeah, I got that one.
Yeah, I got.
Yeah.
So I was given this at school so that if I came into contact with tuberculosis, it wouldn't impact me because my body could fight it off.
Right.
When they started producing flu jabs, whenever they did, you have a flu jab every year.
Right. Right.
Not a flu vaccine,
It's not a vaccine.
a flu jab every
And you
year.
know what? It's funny you said that, because when they always used to say, "Get your flu shot." Just get your flu shot. They never said get your flu vaccine, because it was understood that, you can take it, but you could still get it. You could still get it. So we all understood, and I never get flu shots just because I've never had the flu. So I figure I'll take my chances. I'm pretty healthy. No one's like trying to cancel me for not wanting to take a flu shot.
And again, John, this is why I say critical thinking. Just looking at the facts dispassionately. Again, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm not. Okay? Would I vaccinate my kids against certain diseases? Certain diseases, yeah. Certain diseases, I would. However, I apply critical thinking. How long has this injection been out and about? What are the results of it? So, for example, when you go to parts of West Africa where certain foundations were giving out vaccinations, certain diseases they don't have anymore. But if you look at the kids that were vaccinated, they're dying at a rate of 10 times of other diseases.
Oh, good God.
The ones that were vaccinated didn't get disease X, polio, for example, but they're dying at a rate of 10 times more of other diseases.
Now, why is that?
I don't know. I'm not a scientist, John. I can just look at numbers and know that something doesn't smell right.
God, that's horrible, though.
But I get, now, again, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm anti-non-critical thinking. Again, I've had vaccinations. I get my yellow fever vax when I go to West. Like, I do. I believe in traditional medicine. If I had cancer now, I'm going to go and look for an effective chemotherapy treatment in order to take care of it. I'm not going to smoke herbs in the jungle and sing Kumbaya. I'm going to go and take care of it. Right? So I need people to understand that. And again, I'm not making medical comments. I'm just simply saying critical thought. Why do I have to change the name of something if I can just call it what it is?
Yeah.
Why do I need
I
to
mean,
do
it
that?
seems like a reasonable question. You know, I
It,
mean,
uh, and the fact that we can't ask these reasonable questions should give rise to more questions, but it doesn't give rise to more questions.
well, you know, and I have these conversations. I think there's a lot of people. There are a lot of people asking those questions, but there's just they're not either they're shut down
Mm-hmm.
or they're minimized or
Cancelled.
they're censored,
Or the
right?
cancelled.
Canceled, ignored,
Yeah.
called all kinds of nasty names. I mean, it's we're going through this right now. I'm sure you're aware of it. The OSHA vaccine mandate, where all companies with 100 or more
Oh,
employees were going to
that's
be
been squashed. The
right, right.
the Supreme Court or whatever it is said that's not
Oh yeah,
constitutional.
Fifth Circuit Court of
Yeah.
Appeals. But we haven't heard the last of that.
Of
I
course we
mean,
haven't heard the last of it.
it'll go all the way up to the Supreme Court, I'm sure.
I mean,
But
but not to cut on that, but just look at the
yeah,
timing. Afghanistan, people catching flack about Afghanistan, and then here's another thing to think about. Nobody's talking about Afghanistan anymore.
I know, I know.
Carry on.
No, I mean it what really irks me about this thing. You know, I'm a chief people officer for a healthcare company. We
Mhm.
obviously had a big target on us with our people who were frontline in hospitals.
Mm-hmm.
They have a different. I think they have a different need for the vax, and they have to follow hospital mandates anyway. So that's not my game. But for the administrative, the office employees, for them to ask companies to be the enforcer of something they want to do, that's the genesis of what my problem was with this whole OSHA mandate. It's not even the fact that if I think it's stupid or not, if I think it's unconstitutional or not. It's don't make me your henchman for something that you're trying to take away people's personal freedoms, and you're going to do it through the company. That I was not too keen on. So I was glad to see that it was squashed, which means you're talking about there's not enough critical thinking. Well, Fifth Circuit Court has some critical thinkers in there, I guess. Thankfully, thank God for us. So yeah, it's crazy. I just the people who are more rational thinkers, I would listen to anybody as long as they're irrational. And we've lost a lot of that.
But the thing is that when people are having these conversations, they cherry pick who they want to quote. So, like, there's the whole Republican Democrat divide, right? So when a
Yeah.
Republican wants to crap on a Democrat, they'll cherry pick who the Democrat is they're going to use as the poster kid. When the Democrat wants to crap on the Republican, they'll cherry pick the Republican that they want to use. And even when you look at the both sides of the pandemic discussion, I think it was the Today Show or one of these shows, they were going around some demonstration in New York, and they went to the guy who was dressed like Elvis with a tinfoil on his head, literally. That's who they go and have as their so that's not critical. What percentage of the people asking these questions are running around dressed like Elvis saying that aliens are coming? Not a high percentage. And yet, instead of you having a rational discussion with doctors, for example, who've got medical treatment, you show the chiropractor. Now, again, nothing wrong with chiropractors saying whatever. However, why are we not bringing forward medical doctors who have got experience on the front line and know what and having an open debate? You bring your evidence, I'll bring mine, and let's see what's happening. No, I haven't heard them. Mm-hmm. 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 Yes, I've got two TEDx booked, one in New York in April, that's live, and then I'm recording one this coming weekend. I use social media a lot in order to sort of get messages out there. Um, I do a lot of free content, I've got my books. I'm in kind of downtime right now. I've got a lot of family birthdays coming up, family visiting us here in Mexico, so I've kind of been chilled. We're doing a nice cool summit in January called 2022 Abundant You, where we're going to drip feed positive, expansive content that people can use to have an abundant year every single day. Um, but that's what I do. A lot of the money that we make in our business, we put back into sharing our content with people and sharing our message with the world. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Not in terms of the model, but definitely in terms of believing in the model. I did a workshop in 2016 with a guy who's become famous now, but at the time nobody really cared about him, Dr. Joe Dispenza. I did a workshop of his. Now Jimmy Fallon's calling him out and celebrities are following his work, whereas I was like, I'm an OG. I was doing tequila shots with him in 2017 when... No, seriously, we did tequila shots once in 2017. It was a cool cat. But but yeah, it was because he did the science behind a lot of this stuff that I talk about. It helped me to understand that these weren't concepts I was making up in my head. There was something real here because someone's got the numbers to back it up, and so it gave me more confidence to speak more authoritatively about what I'm saying because the numbers are there to back it up. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Not favorite philosopher, but definitely a favorite philosophy, and that was I think it's Socrates that said, "The wisest man is the man who knows he knows nothing." So I approach every conversation not as the person who knows everything, but open to receive a new experience, a new learning, a new understanding, a new perspective. I'm not coming to tell people what I think. I'm coming to have an exchange of ideas. And I think that's been critical to me growing, learning more, and being able to do more because I always am open to learning from the kids, from a homeless man on the street, from a seemingly insignificant throwaway line that somebody said. I'm always open for that being an avenue through which God can give me something new to add to my life. In short, yeah, the inputs create the emotional state that we're in. The emotional state that we're in impacts the capacity that we have to think a certain way. How we think impacts our unconscious thoughts and behaviors, which as much as 97% of the time is impacting what we experience. Hmm. For me, yeah, but I mean, so someone said to me, you know, what do you call that greater power? Some use universe, some use divine, source, whatever. But I was raised in a conservative Christian home, so regardless of the meaning that I place behind the word, right, that's the word that I'm most familiar with, and so it's going to have the deepest resonance with me. And for me, prayer is a medium of communication that moves beyond that which we call physical form and into something that's beyond that. I may not know until I'm dead and gone exactly what is sitting behind the curtain, but I do know that I've seen in my life change and difference that comes when I have that engagement and that communication, and I do feel a response in the experiences that I have in my life also. Mm-hmm. 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 Mm-mm. No. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. If you allow it to be. Mm-hmm. Of my own? Oh, four. Four. Mm-hmm. I got 4 books. No, 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 no. All of the above, all of the above. In terms of working with people, it tends to be my coaches that do a lot of the day-to-day delivery, the group coaching and stuff like that. I do step in and do some of that. Um, we did a bit more corporate work before. We were going a bit more deeply into the corporate work, and then pandemic hit. But we're pivoting into finding a place for our work to be impactful in the corporate environment, and maybe in the new year exploring that a bit more deeply. Plus, I write for magazines like Entrepreneur Magazine and other business um, publications, so I do get some interest from people in businesses to work with them on more of a corporate basis. But yeah, I do keynoting, more virtual now, podcasting, so on and so forth. Anywhere where I can find my gifts being of use, I look for a way to bring them to be of use. February 13th, 2018. No, I can't. Sorry, it was about 6:25 in the morning. There we go. But I had a really truly beautiful visceral experience of exactly what my life would be like if I quit running away from Nineveh and got out of the whale. So that was the day I made the choice to do that. I came back to the UK. I was in the States at the time. I came back to the UK. I shut down the website of my business, packed up, made the decision to leave the house, and a couple of months later, I was on the road sharing my work around the world. That experience that I had, it was like being in a virtual reality experience, fast forward into the future, seeing myself talking to people, changing people's lives, being on stages. I felt all of the emotional experience there and then. It was wild. I can't explain it. And I knew then that this is what I had to be doing. And so I packed up, trusted, and did it. Yeah, but I've been running away from the calling. And that time I knew that it wasn't a calling that I deserved to run away from. I was worthy of the experience that would come from me actually answering it. And so I did. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. Mm-hmm. 2018. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I would say this is what at its core, I take care of my spirit, I take care of my mind, and I take care of my body, and I get clear on the direction I'm moving in. Those are four things that form part of every single day for me. What that looks like will depend on the individual listener, them, who they are, what they resonate with. But if you take care of getting clear on where you're going and making sure you're on course, that could be an intention, it could be a goal, it could be a vision that you've written down. Taking care of your spirit, that could be praying, it could be meditation, it could be going to your church, your synagogue, your temple, your mosque, whatever the thing is. Taking care of your mind, for me, it's reading, visualization, getting clear and giving my mind clarity, and then taking some action, looking after my physical body, having a workout, going for a walk, getting out in nature, getting fresh air, being mindful of what I'm eating and making sure it nourishes me, drinking enough water. Those four things I take care of every single day. Yeah, you feel that. You feel it. Yeah, you feel it. If I hadn't had enough sleep, I feel it. If I hadn't drunk enough water, I feel it. If I haven't had a workout, I feel icky. If I haven't taken care of my spirit, I find that things can get to me. But when I've had time to be in peace, say my prayer of gratitude, ask for strength and resilience to deal with the day, step into quiet and have some meditation to listen to the voice coming back, the resources that I have for the day are clearly discernible between the days that it happens and the days that it doesn't. Family just left, but I've got more family coming. I spoke to my brother a couple of hours ago. He's flying out in the next couple of weeks. My brother's going to be coming out, and then we've got Christmas, my wife's birthday, my stepdaughter's birthday, my son's first birthday, all within a very, very short period of time. Then we've got Christmas. So, yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. They love to come visit. Yep. Ethan's going to be 1 on the 15th of December. He had his first steps a couple of days ago. That was wild. Wild. Yeah, it's wild. Yeah, he didn't want to crawl. He kind of rolled about on his belly a little bit and then has been trying to walk for a very long time. And now he's got it nailed. He's like, yeah, this is me. This is what I was here to do. He wasn't into that crawling stuff at all. Yeah, the game changes. I'm so thankful we've got a nanny, Isabel, who's here. She comes in at 8 in the morning. She's there till the evening. So whilst I'm out during the day, Olga's got some help. Otherwise, she'd be run ragged between that and a 5-year-old. Yeah. Head to my website, dreamwithdan.com. We've got a lot of free resources, access to my podcasts, books, my blogs. We did another in-person event in October. We've got another one coming up in May down here in Carbo, a weekend event called Alchemy of Abundance, which is really cool, very reasonably priced as well. But we're doing some virtual stuff in the interim and some other cool bits. But the best thing is to head to dreamwithdan.com, grab a free resource that speaks to you, that'll pop you on the email list, and then whenever we're doing something cool, you get to find out about it. Of Abundance. Alchemy of Abundance. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the 6th to the 8th of May. So we did the event, the first version of this event last month, a month ago. We did that. Awesome. 3 days just diving into what this content, these ideas I'm talking about mean in a practical level. What does it mean to be able to look at your emotional state and to translate that into a different outcome? What does it mean to face fear and to transmute it? What does it mean to sidestep limiting beliefs? And what does it mean to call repeatedly and consistently, predictably into your life, the level of abundance that you deserve? We talk about that on the weekend. Yeah, spend a bit of time with me though, and you'll be able to drop that story. Oh, thank you. Come and hang out. I was going to say we've got some tequila shots to catch up with. We'll get a little añejo extra, so that 5-year-old age smoothly silk tequila. Oh yeah, we'll get some of that going. Mhm. 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 Beautiful. Mm. Don't take this thing we call life so seriously. None of us are getting out of alive anyway. We're not getting out of alive, so let's take the time to dedicate at least some of this time that we do have alive to enjoying the experience, to having more yumminess, having more sexiness, having more deliciousness, instead of beating ourselves up, having conversations where we're arguing with people who are too, pardon my French, too stupid to even see a view other than their own anyway. Do you enjoy this life? We've only got one of them as far as we know. Beautiful. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you for having me. And you? Happy Thanksgiving to you and the family. We don't, but we've got a lot of expats here down in Carbo, so we generally find someone that's got a turkey we can nick some off. So Oh, there you go. There you go. There you go. All the best. I'm saying, God bless. Take care.